Okay.
And if you tell us, we'll edit it out.
Okay. But no tweeting, right?
No
Everybody-
tweeting.
we're
No
good?
tweeting. We know everyone in this room.
We're in lockdown.
Steven's showing his hands. We don't need to see your hands, Steven.
Just
Okay.
a little heads up. This deal with Wash and Lamar has started to pick up.
Oh.
With
the
what they're
FT.
offering, it's now looking like it'll get agreed to tonight. Someone here will keep you posted when it's about to be finalized. Want you to be ready. Talk soon.
Oh, man.
This was a nightmare scenario for the Baltimore Ravens. Something that was supposed to be relatively routine not only snowballed into something way, way worse, which now the NFLPA is getting involved, but you straight up have players on the Baltimore Ravens declaring war on their general manager. I am serious. So there's a lot to cover here. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications on the channel grow. Now that we get all that out of the way, work! So I've made almost $5,000 playing this game over the past couple months and posting my picks and selections onto my Instagram story for you guys to follow them. And the game that I'm obviously talking about is PrizePicks. Right now, when you use my promo code Mikerophone, they'll match up to $100 of your initial deposit with another $100. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, yesterday I had Killian Hayes getting less than 21 points, rebounds, and assists. You went into the third quarter with 18, and he finished the game with 20.5. I can't tell you how euphoric that feeling was when I saw that I was able to make $210 off of a pick that came within 0.5 of not hitting. So if you want to check out PrizePicks, make sure you use my promo code Mikerophone for a free 100% deposit match up to $100. And follow me on Instagram if you want to follow my picks on Instagram.
Probably the bigger headline here, the guaranteed money. He is getting counsel from the NFLPA, advising him really to stay strong on that guaranteed money. What Lamar Jackson is doing is good business for Lamar Jackson and for the quarterback.
Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? For those of you guys that have been following us throughout the entire Lamar Jackson situation, you'd already know the main reason why the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson can't come to an agreement on a contract extension. But for those of you guys that don't, I'll give you a brief summary. From the Baltimore Ravens perspective, you look at the top 4 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Aaron Rodgers at $50.3 million per year. Russell Wilson at $49 million per year, Kyler Murray at $46.1 million per year, and Deshaun Watson with an absurd, crazy, fully guaranteed $46 million contract, which is 5 years and $230 million guaranteed. All 4 of those quarterbacks didn't make it to the playoffs this year. So ironically, the 5th highest paid QB in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, was able to win the Super Bowl in a feat that I don't believe I've seen achieved in quite some time, where a quarterback, a top 5 paid quarterback in the NFL, was able to win a Super Bowl. It's one hell of an achievement, and Patrick Mahomes deserves a lot of respect and love from his fellow quarterbacks, because you could use him as the example that you could pay your quarterback a ton of money and still win a Super Bowl. You can even make a reasonable explanation as to why the top 4 highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL didn't make it to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers had a brand new wide receiver room. His top wide receiver left and got traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. Russell Wilson, I guess you could say that his head coach wasn't the right coach for him. I mean, that's at least what the Broncos are rolling with, but in reality, they extended him way too early before even seeing what he was like on the field. Maybe it was Nathaniel Hackett. They didn't really have a choice but to get him an all-world coaching staff at this point. Kyler Murray dealt with injury issues over this past season, and Deshaun Watson was suspended for a majority of the season. All very reasonable explanations as to why they weren't able to make it to the playoffs. But here's where it gets interesting. When you look at this from Lamar Jackson's perspective, you look at Deshaun Watson's situation, where, bear in mind, Deshaun Watson signed a contract extension during the same offseason that Patrick Mahomes got his. It was literally half of what he earns right now. And then obviously he demands a trade after not liking what's going on with the Houston Texans front office. There was obviously the allegations against him as well that we're not going to get into because we pretty much spent the entire year last year covering it. You combine that with the fact that the Cleveland Browns were just desperate for having a truly remarkable Pro Bowl quarterback, to the extent that they were willing to give up a 2022 first round pick and a first round pick in 2023 and 2024, and a 4th round pick in 2022, a 3rd round pick in 2023, and a 4th round pick in 2024, and then sign him to pretty much the craziest quarterback contract in NFL history, a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million contract. And you can understand why Lamar Jackson is a little annoyed here and why he's not backing down. Lamar Jackson isn't in the situation that Russell Wilson was in with the Denver Broncos when the Denver Broncos just traded for a quarterback in his mid-30s and decided to extend him until he's damn near 40. Lamar Jackson wasn't in the situation that Kyler Murray was in, where Kyler Murray randomly just stamped his feet and said, give me a contract extension. Lamar Jackson has had an MVP season with the Baltimore Ravens. He's been with the Baltimore Ravens his entire career, unlike Deshaun Watson, and he feels like he should be paid as such. He wants a fully guaranteed deal, just like Deshaun Watson. And when you also consider the fact that Lamar Jackson has been playing on a rookie scale contract this entire time, and Lamar Jackson has a similar style of play as Deshaun Watson does. As a matter of fact, I'd say Lamar Jackson's style of play is a little bit more dangerous than Deshaun Watson's is, because it seems like he depends a little bit more on his legs and his scrambling ability, which means he's more susceptible to getting hit, which means the chances are that his career isn't going to last as long as some of these other quarterbacks. And it makes a lot of sense why Lamar Jackson would ask for a fully guaranteed deal. And it seems like that's where the impasse stems from. Now, what's interesting is the NFLPA is actually getting involved here. The NFLPA even told Lamar Jackson to stand his ground in negotiations. This is per Diana Rossini. Quarterback market was reset when the Browns gave Deshaun Watson that fully guaranteed contract, and he's being told not to move off of that. And these are obviously all the most recent contract extensions, if we haven't already mentioned them. So like I said earlier in the video, when I said Patrick Mahomes is doing a solid for the quarterbacks in the NFL by winning a Super Bowl despite being paid as a top 5 QB in the NFL, well, Lamar Jackson's doing the same. Watch.
Because the hang up right now is probably the bigger headline here, the guaranteed money that Lamar Jackson is seeking. He is getting counsel from the NFLPA, advising him really to stay strong on that guaranteed money. What Lamar Jackson is doing is good business for Lamar Jackson and for the quarterbacks. The quarterback market was reset when the Cleveland Browns gave Deshaun Watson all of that guaranteed money. And until that number changed, or at least until the Baltimore Ravens are willing to give, it seems that right now this thing could be headed to a tag.
So we're in a very bad situation if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, because you have to think of it. If the Baltimore Ravens weren't able to win a Super Bowl when Lamar Jackson was getting paid on a rookie scale contract, what makes you think that you're going to win a Super Bowl when Lamar Jackson is potentially getting paid a fully guaranteed $50 million per year contract? That just doesn't make any sense. You're investing significant amounts of capital to a player that was already there, and you weren't able to make the most out of his rookie scale contract to begin with. You were only able to win one playoff game. Well, general manager of the Baltimore Ravens provided an explanation as to why this is, and he got himself into some hot water as a result of it, because things are just getting way worse as a result of his comments. So Eric DeCosta on his problems with drafting wide receivers. If I had an answer, that would probably mean I would have had some better receivers. We're gonna keep swinging. There have been some guys that have been very successful players for us that were draft picks, but we've never really hit on that all-pro type of guy, which is disappointing, but it's not for a lack of effort. Not one of those anomalies that I really can't explain, other than to say that we're not going to stop trying. We're going to keep swinging, and hopefully at one of these points, we're going to hit the ball out of the park. You must feel some type of way if you happen to be one of those wide receivers for the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, well, an individual that is a wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens is none other than Rashod Bateman. Rashod Bateman has been a perennial breakout candidate for the Baltimore Ravens as a wide receiver ever since getting drafted in the 2021 NFL draft. He was their first round pick that year. Bateman has been very successful throughout his collegiate career. 2021, he played in 12 games and started in 4 of them, but this past year he dealt with some significant injury issues, undergoing surgery on his foot. So obviously he feels some type of way about this, and he actually claps back at his general manager, saying, how about you play to your player's strength and stop pointing the finger at us and number 8. Blame the one you let do this. We take heat 24/7 and keep us healthy. Care about us and see what happens. No promises though. Tired of y'all lying and capping on players for no reason. Bro really said,
stop the cap. Stop the cap right now. Stop the cap. No more. Bro.
Now, I want you guys to know that Eric DeCosta has spoken glowingly about Rashod Bateman.
So Rashod is doing really well. Obviously, you know, it was a pretty serious injury. I think we got out ahead of it to a degree. You know, Rashod and the club, we decided to do the surgery And I think it was probably good that we did it at that point because the injury could have gotten worse. He's doing well. We text quite a bit. I know he's very, very excited, chomping at the bit to get into the offseason program. We're very excited about him as a player. I can't wait to see what he can do this year.
And Rashod Bateman would actually delete this tweet later on, but Hollywood Brown and other players that used to play for the Ravens actually commented on this. I mean, you have Mike Davis who said, I hate to say it or be that guy, but being there, Bate is 100% right. But it's not just Mike Davis, it's also Hollywood Brown, and formerly Lamar Jackson's #1 target, at least in terms of wide receivers if we're not counting tight ends. And Hollywood Brown even quoted this saying, let him cook. I think what's being alluded to here is,
yo, general manager, it's not our fault that we're not succeeding. You had an offensive coordinator that didn't run a pass-friendly offense.
And I think that's something that we really ignored in the past when it came to the Lamar Jackson situation. He was in Greg Roman's offense prior to this. And the best way I could compare this is John Harbaugh took his brother Jim Harbaugh's offensive coordinator from the Colin Kaepernick era and pretty much installed a very similar type of offense while using Lamar Jackson as Colin Kaepernick. No, I'm not saying one player is better than the other, but the schemes are very similar. Same offensive coordinator. The problem is that the Baltimore Ravens have had issues with having healthy halfbacks in the past. And on top of that, you don't necessarily see wide receivers getting themselves as involved in this type of offense. As a matter of fact, if you go back to the Colin Kaepernick years with the San Francisco 49ers, there have been instances of wide receivers being frustrated at the lack of their production. I mean, in the 2011 season, Michael Crabtree led the San Francisco 49ers with 874 receiving yards. In 2012, Michael Crabtree did have a 1,105-yard season. And in 2013, Anquan Bolden had a 1,179-yard season as well. But outside from that, not a lot of other receivers really got involved. It's not a very prolific passing offense. And I think that was exemplified during the Lamar Jackson era. That's a huge reason why Marquise Hollywood Brown asked to be traded originally, because he was coming on a contract year. He wanted to be in an offense that would utilize him more consistently, which would result in more targets, which would result in more receiving yards, possibly more touchdowns. Reuniting with his ex-teammate Kyler Murray was supposed to solve that, and it was supposed to help the Cardinals move on from DeAndre Hopkins. Unfortunately, Kyler Murray dealt with an injury, and Cliff Kingsbury just seemed to quit halfway throughout the season. I don't necessarily blame him. So what's my point here? Well, it seems like a lot of Baltimore Ravens players are getting upset at Eric DeCosta, I guess for belittling them. I guess they felt disrespected in this regard, but it also implies that this is a huge year for Lamar Jackson. You already know about those memes about Lamar Jackson is a running back. Well, what happens when you take away his offensive coordinator that has placed him in a system where he gets to be run first and pass second? What happens when you bring in an offensive coordinator that wants him to throw more often? Well, we're going to get our answer this upcoming season, and as a result, it appears more and more likely that the Ravens will probably franchise tag Lamar Jackson, because what if you extend him and sign him to one of the craziest contracts in NFL history, and he completely fails when you bring in a new offensive coordinator that wants him to throw the ball more consistently, and now you have less assets to invest in other areas of the team because you're paying Lamar Jackson a crazy amount of money. What happens then? At the end of the day, I will always be a proponent for trading Lamar Jackson and getting anywhere near the haul that the Texans got for Deshaun Watson. I think any team that does that automatically sets themselves up for great success. But I like to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.